On the outskirts of a small village nestled near the base of towering mountains lived a man named Eli. For years, Eli had one dream: to stand on the peak of the tallest mountain and look out over the world below. Everyone in the village admired the mountains, but no one dared to climb them. Too dangerous, they said, too exhausting. But not Eli. He woke up every day with a single focus: the peak. His mornings began with practice, hiking the nearby hills, learning about ropes and tools, and preparing himself for the journey ahead. The day finally came when Eli felt ready. With his bag packed and his heart determined, he set out early one cold morning. The first few hours were easy. The sun warmed his face and he could still see the village below, with its tiny houses and fields. But as he climbed higher, the air grew thin and the path steeper. Eli's body began to tire, his legs heavy and his breath short. He pushed forward, but every step felt like lifting the weight of the entire mountain itself. By midday, exhaustion hit him like a storm. His hands blistered from gripping the rocks, and his back ached from the weight of his pack. The peak that had once seemed so close now looked impossibly far. He could barely see it through the clouds. His muscles screamed at him to stop, to turn around, to give up. "Why am I doing this?" Eli asked himself, slumping down onto a rock. He was too tired to go on, too overwhelmed by the sheer scale of what lay ahead. Maybe the villagers were right. Maybe this mountain wasn't meant to be climbed. As he sat, feeling defeated, an old man passed by on the path. His steps were slow but steady, his face weathered from years spent in the mountains. He nodded to Eli and stopped beside him. "You look tired, son," the old man said. Eli sighed. "I don't know if I can do this. The peak seemed so close this morning, but now it feels impossible." The old man smiled and looked up at the mountain. "You see that peak?" he asked. "It will always seem far, but tell me, what did you expect?" I thought it would get easier as I went," Eli admitted. The old man chuckled softly. "Ah, there's the mistake. The mountain doesn't get easier, my friend. You get stronger." Eli frowned, confused. "But I'm so tired." The old man nodded. "Of course you are. You've worked hard. But don't confuse being tired with being weak. Tired means you've already done more than you thought you could. And do you know the secret to reaching the top?" Eli shook his head. "One step at a time," the old man said. "Not the whole mountain, not the peak all at once. Just the next step. That's all you need to focus on." Eli sat quietly for a moment, letting the old man's words sink in. The mountain was massive, yes, but he didn't need to climb it all at once. Just one step. He could manage that. He stood, testing the weight on his legs. They were sore, but they could take another step. "Thank you," Eli said, and the old man smiled, giving him a nod before continuing his own slow, steady climb. With renewed strength, Eli began his ascent once again. Every time his body begged him to stop, every time his mind whispered that it was too hard, he reminded himself, one step at a time. The peak wasn't the goal right now, just the next step. Hours passed, and with each step, something remarkable happened. Eli didn't grow less tired, but he grew more determined. His legs, once weak, found new strength. His breathing, once labored, found a rhythm. Slowly, steadily, the summit came closer. By sunset, Eli stood at the top. The village below was barely a speck, the clouds beneath him. The journey had been hard, harder than he'd imagined, but here he was, standing where few had ever stood before. The mountain hadn't gotten smaller, and the work hadn't gotten easier. He had become stronger. Sometimes, when we're overwhelmed by work, it feels like we're staring up at a mountain that's too tall to climb. But like Eli, we don't have to conquer it all at once. Focus on just the next step. You're not weak for being tired. It's a sign you've already done so much. And step by step, you'll get stronger, until one day you'll look back from the peak and realize how far you've come.